All right, let's jump right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are unpacking an absolutely gorgeous, sensory-rich folktale. We're going to be exploring the story of a timid sweetmaker, a wildly powerful jinn, and the true meaning of courage. We'll break down this narrative step by step to understand exactly how a guy who was literally terrified of his own shadow managed to face down the ultimate darkness.
But first, I want you to think about a question for a second. What is the true recipe for courage? You know, we so often think of bravery as a complete lack of fear, right? Like some fearless, heroic knight charging straight into battle. But what does it really take to overcome paralyzing fear when everything you love and everything you've worked so hard to build is suddenly on the line? Keep that thought in the back of your mind as we walk through this story.
Let's set the scene with Section 1, The Timid Sweetmaker.
Our story paints this incredibly vivid picture of an old village. It's the kind of place that wakes up to the sound of birds and goes to sleep wrapped up in the earthy scent of wet soil. And right in the middle of it all is our protagonist, a simple, hardworking man named Kareem. Now his shop isn't huge, but it is constantly filled with the scissoring sound of hot syrup and this intoxicating aroma of sweets. But what's really fascinating about Kareem is the massive contrast in his character. On one hand, the guy is incredibly talented. The villagers literally say he has magic in his hands. His gulab jamuns are perfectly soft, his jalebis are ridiculously crispy, and his barfi, it just melts right in your mouth. But on the other hand, he struggles with this paralyzing fear. He is absolutely terrified of the dark. I mean, if a shadow moves or the wind just rattles his door, his heart starts pounding. He actually closes his shop early every single night just to avoid the darkness, which unfortunately makes him the butt of the village children's jokes.
Moving right along to Section 2, An Unexpected Friendship.
So every great story needs an inciting incident, and for us, it's the village fair. The entire village is in celebration mode, buying new clothes and ordering just massive amounts of sweets. Kareem gets completely slammed with orders for ladus, jalebis, and rasgullas. He realizes pretty quickly that if he doesn't fulfill these orders, he's going to break the village's trust entirely. So for the very first time, he forces himself to stay open and work late into the dark, silent night. As he's boiling milk and prepping syrup in the dead of night, he hears a noise. The wind is howling, dogs are barking off in the distance, and suddenly, smoke just starts billowing into the corner of his shop. Kareem backs up against the wall, trembling like a leaf, and delivers this wonderfully humorous line, "Who is there? Come out, but not too much." Out of the smoke emerges this massive, powerful jinn. But, and here's the twist, the jinn isn't there to haunt him at all. He was simply drawn out of his old peepal tree by the irresistible, mouth-watering scent of Kareem's fresh sweets.
The really crucial point here is the deal they end up striking. Kareem is exhausted, totally overwhelmed by these huge fair orders, and the jinn actually offers to help him out. And in exchange, well, he doesn't want Kareem's soul, and he doesn't want to use dark magic. The pact is wonderfully simple. Step 1, the jinn helps make the sweets. Step 2, Kareem gives him a small plate of fresh jalebi every single day. And step 3, which is absolutely the most important one, Kareem must promise to never turn away the poor empty-handed. The jinn clearly values kindness and generosity way above all else.
This little pact sparks a beautiful midnight routine between the two of them. The jinn cleans the pots in a flash, manages the roaring fire, and arranges the sweets while Kareem cooks. And during these long, quiet nights, they really talk. Kareem confesses his lifelong, totally irrational fears of the dark and of moving shadows. And the jinn? He responds with this profound piece of wisdom. Fear is in the heart, not in reality. Just let that sink in for a second. The jinn is teaching him that the monsters he's imagining aren't actually out there hiding in the dark at all. They are entirely internal.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core philosophy that the jinn is passing on to Kareem. When Kareem asks how he can possibly convince his fearful heart, the jinn gives him this exact definition. The ultimate antidote to fear is a combination of friendship, courage, and truth. Through this growing bond, Kareem starts to realize that the jinn isn't just physically strong, he's incredibly wise too. Kareem's shop becomes wildly successful thanks to their teamwork, but honestly, what's more important is that Kareem's inner world begins to fundamentally change.
But of course, the peace doesn't last forever. Let's look at Section 3, The Dark Magician Arrives.
The pacing of our story shifts really dramatically right here. One afternoon, a sinister stranger arrives in the village. He's dressed in dark clothes, he's got these sharp, calculating eyes, and a totally cruel demeanor. He walks straight into Kareem's shop and completely shatters the sweetmaker's newfound peace. You see, the stranger knows Kareem's secret. He reveals himself as a dark magician,
a guy who captures jinns to steal their power, and he lays out a terrifying ultimatum. He says, "Hand over the jinn to me, or I will tell the entire village that you use magic to make your sweets." For Kareem, this is a literal nightmare scenario. The villagers are terrified of magic. If this secret gets out, they're going to hate him, his business will be completely ruined, and he'll lose everything he spends life building.
Later that night, a terrified Kareem tells the jinn everything. He's crying, saying he just doesn't want to lose his friend. The jinn looks at him, dead serious, and says, "Friendship means making tough decisions in hard times." This right here is the pivotal moment for Kareem. The old Kareem, he would have run away or hidden under a table. But driven by genuine love for his friend, he decides to stop running. In this moment, he shifts from a fearful man to a loyal protector.
Which brings us to the climax in Section 4, the Battle of Courage.
The very next evening, the dark magician returns to get his answer. When Kareem bravely refuses to hand over his friend, the magician is absolutely furious. He draws this strange, dark circle right on the floor of the shop and begins chanting. The wind starts howling, shadows are dancing wildly on the walls, and the jinn appears, roaring out that he is no one's slave. The magician casts a dark spell from his circle, throwing out a black light that totally traps the jinn. The whole shop is shaking, sweets are flying everywhere. Kareem's instinct is screaming at him to run away. But then he remembers the jinn's words about friendship and truth. He looks around and realizes, hey, I'm just the sweet maker, so he uses what he knows best. He grabs a massive pot of freshly boiled, incredibly hot syrup. He shouts, "You fight with power, but I fight with my heart," and he pours that boiling syrup directly onto the magician's dark circle on the floor.
And it works. The hot syrup completely destroys the magical markings. The spell breaks. The magician starts panicking as his dark circle fades, screaming that the circle was built on fear, to which Kareem shouts back that he is simply no longer afraid. The jinn breaks free, and his voice echoes with this unbelievably powerful line, "Strength isn't about control. Strength is about staying free." The jinn blasts the magician backwards. The magician drops his magical staff, and Kareem steps right up and snaps it in two, ending the battle once and for all. Kareem's hands are shaking, sure, but his face shows pure, absolute peace. He has finally, truly conquered his fear.
Now, as the magical storm clears out, we enter Section 5, a heartbreaking farewell.
So, things eventually return to normal, and Kareem's shop actually becomes more famous than ever before. But one really serene, moonlit night, the jinn appears looking incredibly serious. He reveals a super sad truth to Kareem. His time in this world is up. He belongs to another realm entirely, and he has to go back. Kareem is devastated, crying out that he's going to be all alone again. But the jinn reminds him that he isn't alone anymore. He has his courage, his truth, and his hard work. The jinn doesn't leave him with some fancy magical spell. Instead, he places a small, glowing light right in Kareem's hand and tells him it's a memory, a glowing memory to hold on to whenever fear tries to return, a permanent reminder of the day Kareem defeated his own terror. With that, the jinn fades into the wind, leaving Kareem alone in the shop, but entirely transformed. Finally, let's wrap up with Section 6, the sweetest reward.
The resolution of this story explores how this incredible, bizarre encounter permanently changed Kareem, and how that change rippled out into his entire community. He wasn't just the timid sweetmaker anymore. He became a pillar of strength for the whole village. Kareem's legacy was honestly profound. First off, he fully mastered his fear. He could sit in his shop in the pitch dark with complete peace of mind. Second, he kept his promise to the jinn and never ever turned the poor away. There's this beautiful anecdote where one day, a hungry little boy in ragged clothes comes to the shop saying he has absolutely no money. Kareem just smiles, hands him a plate of sweets and says, "Heart's money works here." And of course, every single night, without fail, Kareem still left a plate of fresh jalebis in the corner of his shop. He'd just smile to himself and say, maybe my friend is just busy today.
So, what is the ultimate takeaway for us here? It's perfectly summarized in this thought. True bravery is doing the right thing despite the fear. You see, Kareem didn't magically stop being afraid entirely. As he admitted to the jinn, he still felt fear sometimes, but he no longer let it control his actions, and that is the very essence of courage. Good deeds, true friendship, and stepping up when things get incredibly hard, these things don't just change our circumstances. They fundamentally turn us into better, stronger people. Which brings us to our final thought for today. When fear surrounds you, how are you going to find your courage? Will you hide in the dark, or will you use whatever sweet magic you have, your truth, your heart, your loyalty, to break the spell of your own anxieties? I really hope Kareem's journey inspires you to face down your own shadows. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will see you next time.